Another day in the garden. It is basically spring.
Yeah.
Because it's hot enough to be spring. Not by the calendar, but you know, we're about what, a month away?
I'd say so.
From a true spring on the calendar. So what we're gonna do is go around the garden and get some spring things in. This is the spring planting fling. All right, so what do we have here? We've got all sorts of potatoes.
Yeah, 5 different types of potatoes, and let's see. Some new ones, some old ones, old reliable, and a little something right here.
Sarpa Una. So these are all from our friends over at Wood Prairie Farms. Not sponsored, we just have been using them for years now. So we have a Yukon Gold. We have a Butte, which I don't think I've grown yet.
2 buttes.
2 buttes. And then this should be, yeah, so pull that guy out.
Yep.
We've grown the Sarpo Mira variety for a couple years now. They just released a couple new varieties in the Sarpo family, I guess you could say. Sarpo Shona.
And Sarpa Una.
So I'm pretty excited. I mean, what's the real difference between these two? Redder flesh.
Exactly.
Redder skin, excuse me.
But these are supposed to be really good for frying.
Yeah, and I'm a potato guy through and through. No matter how they come, I'm going to be eating them. So let's go ahead and get these planted. So step 1 is to basically unearth our irrigation line. Because we're gonna want to plant on this. We've done some compost, and I have to say, it's really settled in. It's nice and moist here.
It's looking great. A lot of worms in the soil, and I mean, we had a crazy harvest in this bed last year too.
We had an insane harvest. We actually had the most potatoes we've ever yielded out of this garden last year. 2 50-gallon or 50-pound burlap sacks, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
absolutely nuts.
Yeah, but when I get this hat off.
Wait, Paul? I thought it was Jacques the whole time.
I know.
Oh my God. These guys, I swear.
Same colored shirt, same type of hat.
Jacques still too cool for this channel right now. He's probably doing something over on his own channel. Paul and I are on that potato game, and you know why this is so sweet? Jacques loves potatoes so much, and he's not enjoying this moment together with you and I.
I know.
And you know what? Karma's a beat.
Yeah, there you go.
Karma's a beat.
He actually came over a little while ago and he stole some of our new varieties of potatoes.
That's literally all he did today. He walked over and just took the potatoes. Okay, so we've got at least one more line here.
Yeah.
We liked this method last year because you don't have to grow potatoes with irrigation on them.
Nope.
I would say it's one of the crops you really could get away with not at all. However, we have it here.
Yeah.
It worked really well last year. So why don't you dig up that next one?
Yep.
I'm gonna start going in. What we see in the foreground here, guys, this is all Epic Straw. It's our organic straw, non-GMO product, only one in the US, I think. That being said, underneath it are potatoes, and we put the dark red Norland variety underneath there. We're doing a Ruth Stout, sort of a true classic Ruth Stout growing example there. On these, however, Paul, I think we're still gonna mulch it over with straw, but we're gonna just bury it slightly deeper. And I'm gonna go in with the Sarpo Shonas down this line.
Cool. Look at this guy. This little grub.
Little
Feed it
grub.
to the chicken.
Give it on those chicks.
There we go.
Okay, so if you're going in with potatoes, you're going in with about a 2-3 inch potato. Maybe two is probably ideal, I would say, from our learning with our friend Potato Ty. You go in whole if you can afford it. And in our case, we're gonna go right next to the irrigation line. And I'm gonna go no deeper than about 4 inches, I would say, Paul.
Okay. And I think in this next line, I'm gonna do buttes. We gotta have some separation, different types.
Yeah, 100%. No, you're so right about the worms though. There's so many worms.
See, I'll get these out of the way over here.
Sign. So what I'll do is I'll go next to the irrigation line, and there's a drip marker every, I believe, 12 or 18 inches.
12 inches.
So I'm gonna probably actually go to 18 spacing on these.
Okay.
Because I think I just want the ability for them to produce as much as they humanly can. The only thing we're not doing here, Paul, is we did not let these chit.
Some of them are, some of them are not.
These are, I would say, like, if you look at that, that's like, maybe 4 days away from a true chit, so you kind of let that one be.
You know why?
Why?
Jock took all the chitted ones.
Yeah, I wanna go to his channel, guys, and just comment like traitor. Say you're an absolute traitor. Yeah, I mean, it's been getting hot here at the homestead. In early February, we're talking 80 degrees.
Last weekend, 85, I believe.
Yeah, that's just disgustingly warm for this time of year, but we're adapting, of course, by getting some stuff in slightly early because the forecasts do seem like this is gonna stay pretty consistently warm.
Yeah.
Which means I guess our season's starting a little earlier this year. Hopefully we don't get the pump fake.
Yeah.
Because that could definitely happen. But potatoes would be able to handle that anyways.
That's true. And we've noticed in the front yard too, actually, like the whole reason we're doing this is because some of the brassicas, like the broccoli specifically, you cut it back once, it immediately goes to flower.
Yeah, and immediately. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so, which is surprising because the stuff in the backyard right over there is holding strong. I think it's because it's of how mature it is already.
I think so too.
It's just able to withstand a little bit more. But if you were to take, because that's mostly kale.
Yep.
If you were to take that and do a hard chop, it would not come back as healthy. Absolutely not, right?
And a lot of aphids too. Like aphids literally everywhere.
Yep, that's that warm. All right, so we'll go in with some of the straw. Like I mentioned, we're pretty proud of this product because it took us a very long time to get it to the specifications that we wanted. It's our Epic Organic Straw. Like I said, USA grown, organic and non-GMO, and I wouldn't say weed-free, but like practically weed-free, almost no weed seeds. I'm a big fan of it. It's a little bit chunkier than some of the straw we've used in the past, but it still sits.
Yep.
Which is what you want with a shredded straw.
Yeah, the second you hit it with any water, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. Here, I'll give that one to you.
Cool.
So because we're not doing a root stout, Paul, we don't need to give it the 4 to 5 inches mulch cover. We can only give it like 2 or 3, it's fine. So the box is, 55 square foot. It's 1.5 cubic feet of volume, but it'll cover 55 square foot at least an inch deep, which is honestly, for most applications, more than what you would need for straw. So we're good on 2 rows, but we gotta get some Yukons in, and we gotta get that Sarpo Una in as well. Nice part about growing potatoes in the same place year after year, Paul, is you will get some forgotten friends.
I know.
I'll accidentally chop that one, but there's a couple down here that are actually just gonna grow of their own accord, which is honestly nice. And harvested at the same time.
At this point, I don't even remember which exact potatoes we put in this bed, so it truly is a nice little mystery.
It'll be an absolute mystery, yeah. It'll be great. You guys know how to grow potatoes, but of course, chitting side up. And to maximize your potato, if you buy seed potatoes and you have ones that are maybe this size or even a little bit bigger, you can cut them in half as long as you have 2 or 3 eyes per side. And the way that we did it with potato tie, if you remember, Paul, is we dusted it with a little bit of wood ash.
Yep.
To kind of seal that cut end, and then you can plant right in. So they do it at a commercial scale. They'll just put them in a big old like rolling barrel, I think, of wood ash.
Damn.
And then, you know, they're all sealed up. You don't have to wait like 5 days or something like that, which some people will recommend. We're gonna give this to Jacques for dinner, but now let's head out to the front yard. Okay, out in the front yard, Paul, slow and methodical.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of starts that we could put in, which kind of goes to what we always talk about is like start more than you think you need.
Absolutely.
But we have some stuff from the nursery.
Yeah.
We've got some stuff we've started, and there's actually like a pretty big variety of different things. Starting off with this circular bed here. What have we done in the past here? We've done onions.
Onions, beets, there are leeks in the bed that are right next to me.
Yeah.
All sorts of things just sort of take a long time in these shorter beds is really what we go for.
Right, and then of course you can throw any kind of vertical trellis on this and you get a really nice sort of textured altitude change kind of vibe to this. But let's rule some stuff out. I think for me, a spaghetti squash or a Triumph squash right now, that's a little too early. So we'll pull those out. We could get these beans in.
Yeah.
That's definitely an option. So we've got Blue Lake, and then we've got Kentucky Wonder Pole, which that might be the real play.
Yeah.
We can throw a little TP trellis, totally. But that wouldn't necessarily be all of it. How about we do that in the core?
Okay.
And then maybe we go around with spinach. I mean, we could try it. It just feels like it might be too hot.
Right.
But we have it, so it's either that or you just don't do anything with it. Then we've got
some onions, basil.
Basil's a little too young, I think.
Yeah.
When you transplant, of course, you're gonna want, we got maybe 1 set of true leaves with basil, especially. You'd want something more like that, exactly. Good call. So I would say, let's start with a core of beans.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna hunt around for some other things we can put on the outside.
For sure. So we're thinking pole beans around the center ring, right?
Yeah, I'd go like 1, 2, 3, maybe, something like that. Because the Kentucky Wonder, I'm forgetting if it's pole or bush.
It's a pole bean.
It's a pole, so then you could do as many as you want of both varieties, then it doesn't matter.
Cool. Let's see.
I think you could do something like this, a little Holy Trinity. Like a little 1, a little 2, and then a little 3 like this.
Okay.
Keep these on the sides, go beans in the middle, go up, and then the shishitos, we'll top them because it's early in the season.
Yep.
So that's the only time, small peppers early in the season, that I would top them, because I'm trying to basically force them to last until, you know, I would say maybe even late summer in a perfect world. So we'll come through with these, and then we're gonna amend with Happy Frog. So 573.
Yep.
Nice little fertilizer. Happy Frog, the official soil and fertilizer partner of Epic. We love them. We've loved them for a long time.
We've been doing some work in these beds, man. Like the root knot nematode situation, I will sound like a broken record because I'm never going to stop bringing it up.
Yeah.
But it is everywhere. It's on every type of plant.
It's gotten in my garden. It's gotten in Jock's garden.
Yeah. It's on lettuce, dude. I didn't even know that that was a thing.
Disgusting and despicable, to be honest. It's more depressing than anything else, but what can you do? I mean, there are some things you can do, literally, but like there's not that much compared to some other diseases that are out there. So it's one of those frustrating things. I hope it kind of like ages out over the season and eventually it slows down.
That'd be great, but it's rainfall and cold are really the things that flush the root knot nematode out of the soil.
Yeah, we're not getting much of that right now, are we?
No, we are not.
So I'm gonna come through early, like I mentioned, on all the shishitos, and I'm gonna give them a topping cut.
Okay, I'll do the same here.
Taking about half that height off, getting bushier earlier, planting them towards the side, so a lot of this mass comes kind of off.
Yep.
You know, and then eventually we'll put a TB trellis 1, 2, 3 going up, and then we'll lash that together. That's an interesting bed combo, and you could even get away, to be honest, with where's our seed starting tray? You could even get away, I think. Why don't we throw a couple Granex over here?
Yeah, dude.
I like kind of crafting a bed design on the fly like this. Just feels a little more engaging, a little more fun.
I'd agree. And I mean, the cool thing about onions is you can really just put them anywhere in the garden, right?
You can pop them. Yeah, that's been our strategy for the last 2 or 3 seasons, is just taking onions, and obviously you can have a dedicated bed for them if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But we've been, like you said, just kind of putting them in random spots, and then you go out and pluck an onion whenever you need one.
Yep.
And that's been really nice. Gotta be one of the most satisfying moments, is that water in.
And it's crazy because this top layer of soil, despite having one of those spray emitters in the middle, is just so dry because of the temperatures that we've been having.
Yeah. Dry plus wind is not a good recipe for well-watered soil.
Or me either, man.
Or myself, yeah, as a human being. Although, you know, getting that early summer tan, Paul,
That's true.
we're about to have beach bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. We're both about to have beach bodies. Epic calendar?
Epic calendar.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Well, you know, Jacques did World Naked Gardening Day a couple years ago.
Yeah,
he got a lot of praise.
Oh, yeah.
He got a lot of praise. All right, Paul, bed down. Let's hit the next one.
That's
Do a
cool.
little self-saving.
I know.
Why not?
Return to earth, you know?
Wait, what do we have here?
Those.
Bulgarian giant?
Yeah, so.
Ooh, a little treat for me?
Yeah, Jock and I saw those at the nursery, and he said that he had to do it because he had leeks that were like 5 feet tall.
Really?
Yeah, so told him if he was a few inches taller, he'd be a Bulgarian
I was
giant.
about to say, do you think we can grow a leek taller than Jacques of his own country? That would be so disrespectful. We have to try. Okay, so I'm attracted to the leeks now, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna put some of these in, because these are long growers.
Yeah.
The thing about any of these nursery buys, you gotta do this. Because if you plant them as a cluster, you would not get the giant.
No.
That's for sure. But then you gotta very carefully tease these out. I don't even think we need the other ones.
I don't think so either.
There's about, yeah, we have almost 10 here.
There we go.
That's good.
How many pounds of leek?
Leakage?
Yeah, leakage.
Yeah. I didn't like that, actually. I didn't realize it would sound like that. How many pounds? I would say probably each one you could get to about, you could definitely get to a pound.
Okay.
I'd say you could maybe push to 2, I would say. So that would make me say maybe about 15 pounds of leeks at the max here, but that's like maxed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, what do you think?
Let's try it out. I mean, I'm good for going for big numbers, dude, because like, I don't know, something inside is telling me to grow massive, massive vegetables each and every year.
Yeah. I mean, listening to that call.
Yeah.
Make this in your heart. So the thing about the leeks, especially when you're transplanting them in after kind of rubbing that soil off, you have a root ball that's kind of nakedly dangling, right? And so you want to give it enough room in the soil. And you know, if you're really being extra credit, you'd dig down into the soil, then you'd form a slight mound and you'd almost spread it out over the mound and you'd bury it in like that. And then you, of course, with leeks, give yourself a head start by covering more of the base than you normally would.
That's right. I was just about to ask how deep you were going.
Yeah, I would put it, see where it starts to branch off?
Yep.
I'd be putting it right up to that point where it starts to branch off.
Okay.
Because I want, of course, a blanched leek.
Certainly.
And so that's gonna be the way you...
And what sort of spacing are you going for? Like 4-ish inches?
About 4.
Okay.
Because they don't want to be crowded out by other plants.
No.
And the roots definitely don't want to compete with other leeks, but they're not gonna get that, wide.
Yeah.
So I would say about 4, because that gives 4 inches on each side to spread out.
Cool.
Which it definitely won't take.
I'm cool with taking this one out too.
This out, yeah.
But we do have some nice snapdragons on the end of these.
Nice. Yeah, these are really nice. And then of course, as you would at the Epic Homestead, your trailing nasturtiums on the side. Almost so abundant as to be annoying. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, sometimes the nasturtiums are a little bit annoying.
The entire canyon in the backyard of my grandparents' house is filled with nasturtiums and has been each and every year since I can remember, because they're basically a weed, dude.
I mean, effectively, they are a weed here in San Diego, especially in those canyons you're talking about. There's one near where I used to live that was the same thing. And it's like in spring, it just lights the whole side up with nasturtiums. We got any more or no?
Yeah, we have a whole other...
Why don't we do this row then?
I think so too.
We should do that row. And then the front, I'm actually gonna just toss some early lettuce.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've already got some going up there, so I think it's definitely a good call.
Yeah, this is like just kind of topping up the row. This is a good example, guys, of one of these rotational beds. So you're just kind of managing it as things naturally come and go. Ooh, that one just ripped straight out.
Oh,
whoops. And if you're a small sort of scale gardener and you might only have 1 or 2 beds, then I would argue this is probably one of the most ideal ways to garden, because then you're pulling something all the time and you're not just waiting for one big haul, then nothing, then a big haul, then nothing, which can be a little bit, it's just a little spotty to grow that way, especially if you're eating the food.
Yeah, and at the beginning, it's pretty discouraging too. Like that was one of the biggest issues that I had, was learning how to get the right timing on crop rotation. But you do it a little bit, do it every day for a while.
When Paul came on, I wouldn't say you knew nothing about gardening, because you knew a lot about succulents and cacti.
Yeah.
But you didn't know, I would say, much at all about vegetables.
No.
So what was hard for you at the start?
So many things. I mean, I remember my first summer, I was like, oh, we do tomatoes in summer, right? But I was like, I don't know what the difference between an indeterminate and a determinate tomato is, and like all these different things, like these nuanced variables that if you don't know, like you don't know.
That's what we're here for, baby. That's what we're here for.
So it was a lot of trial and error with just, figuring out timing, and then like the right timing, because you can do, in San Diego, you can do virtually anything at any time, but there are optimal times to do those things.
Yeah,
so
I would say even still here, like there's still things that if you did them, it wouldn't work out that well.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, that's a pretty good Bulgarian giant leeks. Let us know down below. Will we grow a leek taller or shorter than our Bulgarian friend Jacques, AKA the trader, as I'm starting to call him, because
when will he be back?
When will he be back? Only when food's on the channel, he's Okay, a little bit of harvesting, Paul, but it is not for me. I have frogs now, guys. I'll put something up on the screen for you. I have 4 rare Costa Rican or Panamanian tree frogs called Cruziohyla sylviae.
So cool, Kevin.
Yeah, they're really cool frogs. And then I have 2 banded bullfrogs.
Yeah, that's right.
They're like little sloppy boys. The problem is you gotta feed them a lot.
Yes, you
so
do.
What I need is I have crickets, and I keep them in a little cricket keeper. The problem is you could breed crickets, but it gets into a bit more than I really want to right now.
For sure.
So what you're doing with the cricket keeper is just keeping them alive until you feed them to your frogs. What they love more than anything, weirdly, is like kale and like cruciferous veg. So let's grab a bunch of this.
Got lots of kale, and I'm gonna get
strip it clean, man. It's great.
I'm gonna get this broccoli out of here. This is what I was talking about earlier, where it's just getting a flower.
Oh.
Cut it once. Ooh.
I got your boy's got PM in his eye. Got that mildew in my eye. All right, that's probably enough for my boys.
Okay, cool.
Cricket food. Who knew? So we got our spring garden started, guys, a little earlier than even we would have hoped, Paul.
Yeah.
But you flex with the seasons, and we hope it's a good one coming up. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Good luck in the garden, and keep on growing.